everybody. Hi. I wanted to come out here and talk about westerns and horror, especially combined horror and westerns. It's really hard to pull off. I can't think of too many movies that do both well because you have to be really good at westerns, and that doesn't always make you good at horror. So it's kind of a weird mix. But now there are two horror western mixes that are out right now, and I had to watch them both because that's what I do. So we have Pale Door and The Wind. The two interesting things about these films is Pale Door is directed by Aaron B. Koontz. The Wind is directed by Emma Tammi. So we have a female and a male perspective of this genre, and they're side by side. And how do they fare? Well, Pale Door is about some outlaws that basically come across some witches, and witches. The witches are actually probably the coolest thing in the movie, I think. Unfortunately, it feels like it's a little bit more about like they're just evil and they're women and we have to kill them. That's basically what this is about. There's some revenge. They were burned at the stake because that's what happens to women back then. But mostly, it's about men versus women, but they're witches. On this side, we have a woman who and her husband are out on the frontier and is very isolated. It's a little more thoughtful and quiet movie than this one. This one's like a little bit more loud and fun. This one is kind of introspective and more based on a woman's experience in the frontier, which you don't see very often. I mean, when was the last time you saw that? I can't think of any. So the cool thing is you get to see a female perspective, and it's horror, and it's a Western. She also directed the Into the Dark Hulu episode called Delivered, which is about a pregnant woman, and The Wind is about two pregnant women, too. I don't know if I needed to. I don't love seeing childbirth on screen, especially in a horror movie, because it's always bad. It's bad. But at the same time, half of this movie you're not sure if it's happening or not. So you kind of have fantasy pregnancy or not. It's a little confusing. But I do really like the idea of you get to see like when the man is out, who knows where, doing, outlaw stuff or whatever he's doing. She's at home taking care of the house by herself. I mean, it's sort of a spooky idea just that alone. So I would give it points for that because it felt fresh, it felt new. And I feel like it was a little bit more artistically done. It was just a little more well shot. I feel like all the people in Pale Door were way too clean. I mean, they had really cool wardrobe, but nobody looked like they had been in, this wardrobe for like a month, which is what they did back then. I'm thinking. So unless you get a bath at, the nearby hotel. And that's all we'll say about that because I play Red Dead Redemption. I know what happens in those things. And then in The Wind, they looked a little more lived in. It felt a little more authentic. I think if I had to choose, I would probably go with The Wind because it felt like a more real experience, the real West. Even though the story was a little more gentle. I wouldn't say gentle. That's a bad word. I would say a little bit more subtle, but still horrifying on a different level. This is a little more like loud and crazy, and there's witches and there's shooting, and this it's a little more like hauntings of possession, and there's something evil out there, as you can see by the poster. They have these creepy hands. These are two beautiful posters too, by the way. I love movie posters, and I do movie posters. These are great horror movie posters. It's really hard to get those past the client, let me tell you. Anyway, so I think as things go, I like them both. I think this one's a little more accomplished. I also like to support the female directors. I think there's a little more artistry. But if you want just like good old fashioned shoot 'em up, Pale Door's pretty cool for that. So that's all I got. I'm just talking about horror and westerns. So I'll see you next time on Shortcuts. Bye.